Hello everyone, welcome to evolutionary biology class, and we are in unit 2, which is molecular evolution, and the topic for today is neutral theory of molecular evolution. So let's start with the introduction. The neutral theory of molecular evolution holds that at the molecular level most evolutionary changes and most of the variation within and between species is not caused by natural selection, but it is caused by genetic drift of mutant alleles that are neutral. So a neutral mutation is one that does not affect an organism's ability to survive and reproduce. So we can also say that neutral mutation is the one which is neither harmful nor beneficial. So the neutral theory allows for the possibility that most mutations are deleterious, but it also holds that because these deleterious mutations are removed by natural selection rapidly, they do not make significant contribution to variation within and between species at the molecular level. So mutations that are not deleterious are assumed to be mostly neutral rather than beneficial. In addition to assuming the primacy of neutral mutations, the theory also assumes that the fate of neutral mutation is determined by the sampling processes described by specific models of random genetic drift. So this neutral theory of molecular evolution was first introduced by the Japanese biologist Moto Kaimura in 1968, and this theory was further introduced independently by two American biologists, Jack Lester King and Thomas Hugh Jukes, in 1969, and this theory was further described in detail by Kaimura in 1983 in his monograph named The Neutral Theory of Molecular Evolution. So according to Kaimura, the theory applies only for evolution at the molecular level, whereas the phenotypic evolution is controlled by natural selection as postulated by Charles Darwin. So the proposal of the neutral theory was then followed by an extensive neutralist and selectionist controversy. That means the people following the theory of Kaimura and the people following the natural selection theory proposed by Charles Darwin. So this controversy was there over an interpretation of patterns of molecular divergence and polymorphism, and this controversy was at its peak between the years 1970s and 1980s. But since then, much evidence has been found for selection at the molecular level. So Kaimura, King and Jukes suggested that when one compares the genomes of existing species, the vast majority of molecular differences are selectively neutral. That is, the molecular changes represented by these differences do not influence the fitness of organism. So as a result, the theory regards these genomic features as neither subject to nor explicable by natural selection. So this view is based in part on the degenerate genetic code, or also in the property of a genetic code, that is the degeneracy of the genetic code, in which sequences of 3 nucleotides codons may differ and yet encode the same amino acid. That is, for an example, GCC and GCA both encode the amino acid alanine. Consequently, many potential nucleotide changes are in effect silent or unexpressed. So such changes are presumed to have little or no biological effect. So the neutral theory of molecular evolution focuses on 3 processes, that is mutation, purifying selection, and lastly random genetic drift. So mutation is at the root of all nucleotide and amino acid substitutions that occur during evolution. So without mutation, DNA and protein molecules could not have evolved. When experimentally determined, mutation rates are on the order of around 10 to the power 9 to 10 to the power 8 events per nucleotide in each generation. So these rates reflect the effect of polymerase errors and chemical damage to DNA. So this rate of mutation would surely be higher in cells if the cells were not equipped with an assortment of mechanisms to prevent replication errors and to repair damaged DNA. So some of the mutations that occur spontaneously improve the fitness of the organism, that is, they are beneficial mutations, so that might over time spread through a population and become fixed. Other mutations depress fitness, and this type of mutations are eliminated from a population by a force of purifying selection. So because each gene is already the end result of long evolutionary process, it is improbable that very many new mutations will improve a gene's function. So many mutations, like random changes in a piece of complex machinery, are likely to impair a function. However, some mutations may have little or no effect on fitness. So geneticists say that such mutations are selectively neutral. We could easily imagine that synonymous nucleotide substitutions in the third positions of codon might be selectively neutral, as might any type of nucleotide substitution in a pseudogene which has already been impaired by a previous mutation. So conservative amino acid substitutions in proteins might also be selectively neutral. Finally, the fate of selectively neutral mutations also depends completely on the random genetic drift. So most selectively neutral mutations are lost from a population shortly after they first appear, whereas a small fraction of them survive for a few generations, and an even smaller fraction ultimately spread throughout the population and become fixed. So when evolution occurs by random genetic drift, the rate of fixation is the rate at which genes mutate to selectively neutral alleles. In the neutral theory, the rate of evolution does not depend on the population size, efficiency of selection, or peculiarities of the mating system. So, according to the neutral theory, the rate of evolution simply depends on the neutral mutation rate, so which is expected to be more or less constant in different lineages over time. So, thus the neutral theory explains why amino acid and nucleotide substitutions seem to occur in a clockwise fashion. So, the neutral theory, however, does not require that all polypeptide and DNA sequences evolve at the same rate. So, for some positions within a sequence, all or nearly all mutations will be selectively neutral. For example, the nucleotide in a pseudogene or the nucleotide in the third position of a codon, that is fourfold degenerate. For other positions, a smaller fraction of all mutations will be selectively neutral, and for some positions, almost no mutations will be selectively neutral. Thus, the neutral theory explains the variation in evolutionary rates that is observed among proteins and DNA regions by invoking differences in functional constraints. Thus, the highest rates are observed in molecules or in portions of molecules that are not constant by selection to preserve a function, that is, in molecules in which mutational changes have little or no effect on function. So, the lowest evolutionary rates are observed in molecules where selection pressure is at the strongest. So let's see about the neutralist and selectionist debate. So there was a heated debate which arose when Chimera's theory was published, which was largely revolving around the relative percentages of alleles that are neutral versus non-neutral in any given genome. So contrary to the perception of many onlookers, the debate was not about whether natural selection does occur or not. So Chimera argued that molecular evolution is dominated by selectively neutral evolution, but at the phenotypic level, changes in characters were probably dominated by natural selection proposed by Charles Darwin rather than the genetic drift. So according to the neutral theory of molecular evolution, the amount of genetic variation within a species should be proportional to the effective population size. So levels of genetic diversity vary much less than census population sizes, giving rise to the paradox of variation. So what is paradox of variation? It is just the observation that shows genetic diversity is weakly correlated with population size or not correlated at all. So while high levels of genetic diversity were one of the original arguments in favor of neutral theory, the paradox of variation has been one of the strongest arguments against the neutral theory. So Tomoko Ota emphasized the importance of nearly neutral mutation, in particularly slightly deleterious mutations. So there are also a large number of statistical methods for testing whether neutral theory is a good description of evolution or not. For an example, the McDonald treatment test, and many other authors also claim the detection of selection. However, Ney et al. Have argued that their methods of claiming so depend on many assumptions which are not biologically justified. So overall, apart from the neutralist and selectionist controversy, this neutral theory proposed by Chimera and other scientists has had an enormous impact on the study of evolution at the molecular level, and therefore it is important for us to know the neutral theory of molecular evolution. And with this we come to the end of our class. Thank you for listening. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel for the upcoming classes. Thank you.